Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, I said it yesterday, and it is coming down. They're predicting a bit of snow. Right now, it's just kind of a sleeting rain, but we have had a few periods of some very large snowflakes. Nothing so far at all is sticking, and since yesterday we hit 70 and we've been warm for a while, I don't think a whole lot will stick, but we'll see. We're in I think the mid 30s right now, maybe right around the freezing mark. So we'll see how it works out if we get some snow. I've heard some of you viewers reporting in over the last 24 hours of where you're already getting snow at. And they are saying that we could get some accumulation out of this. It's certainly been coming down for a few hours now. Folks, you need to get out of cities. If I just made a video just saying that one thing, I think that would be enough. You need to get out of the cities. I know that some of you are still struggling to do that. Your goal is to get out of the city. You know it. You know it's bad. You know it's dangerous. You know it's unsustainable, and you're still trying. And keep it up. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't think that it's just not going to happen. I talk to people almost every day that have, made that decision, that have, moved out of the cities, wherever it is, and they have moved more into rural America. I can't even remember how many people that I've met that's moved here in the Ozarks that's just said it's enough. I've talked to several people that they openly admit that, this was a financial loss for us. We walked away from a good job. We took a loss on our house. We went from living in a nice big house and having a good job to now we're living in a little small farmhouse and, just enough, making enough money to just kind of get by. And they're happy about it. They don't regret it. And I think that's kind of the decision that a lot of people need to start realizing. We've talked about it on this channel of one of the big problems with this nation is that we've become too comfortable. We've gotten too used to all the conveniences and the ease of our lifestyle. And one of those is living in the big cities and just having everything at your fingertips and being able to walk down the street or drive a short distance to get all the different kinds of things that you've ever dreamed of, and your fancy coffees and all that kind of stuff. And then you move out here, well, it's give and take. But I want to strongly encourage and emphasize again that if you are at all able in any way to make that move now, I would certainly do it. And if it's something in your future, keep working at it and try to figure out every angle you can to get out. Now, why? Well, I don't know that I even have to state the obvious, but I'll be Captain Obvious for the moment. As if things haven't been bad enough, I'd say over the next week or two, next few days, maybe even, we could start seeing multiple cities. The violence increasing, rioting, the burning, the looting, crime just going through the roof. It's already have been. I saw something, I think that most larger cities over the past year, crime has increased somewhere in the numbers of 30%. I mean, it varies from city to city, but overall, about a 30% increase in crime. Some places as high as 100 and 200% increases of crime within the city. And with this Chauvin verdict up in Minnesota, expected probably in the next few days, I think things are going to start getting rough. Now, there's a going debate right now is, well, it all depends on the verdict as to whether or not things are going to get rough. I put a poll up here on the channel yesterday. About 800 or a little over 800 of you voted in the poll. And the question was, how do you think it will pan out with this, the verdict of this case? And do you think that rioting and violence is going to occur regardless of the verdict, or do you think it will only occur if the verdict isn't what a lot of people want? If he's not found guilty, then only then will the violence occur. And about 88 to 90% of you said you believe that the violence is going to happen regardless of the verdict outcome. And I tend to believe that myself also. There's been too much buildup. I mean, there's already violence going on. Violence is already happening in multiple cities because of other shootings. And so it's not going to take too much. We've got this Maxine Waters out there, just fanning the flame. Even Joe Biden was saying that he was praying and hopeful that the right verdict, that he would be found guilty, or that because there was overwhelming evidence against Derek Chauvin. Look at it this way. Even if they do find him guilty of anything, which if you followed the case at all and the evidence that was presented, it's looking less and less likely. The judge, when they sent the jury off, he reiterated to them that they could only find the defendant guilty if they felt it was proven in court that the victim's death was of a direct result of what he did. And the defense made a pretty decent case of showing that George Floyd did not necessarily die because of Derek Chauvin being on his back, and he wasn't even on his neck. Even the chief of police, who has supported the George Floyd movement and BLM movement, admitted, under oath that it looked as though that Derek Chauvin's knee was on his shoulder and not his neck. So there's a whole lot of stuff, and I don't want to go into the details because that's not what this video is about. It's not about the case. It's in part about what's going to happen. And then you've got, like I said, Maxine Waters and Joe Biden and CNN. I mean, CNN's been notorious for this in the past, out trying to sway the jury with the kind of subliminal and passive things that they're saying. All it's doing is it's setting the defense up, for an excellent appeal, to appeal, if he is convicted. So I think that regardless of the outcome and regardless of what happens, you're going to see violence. And folks, I have a gut feeling that what we're going to see this time around is going to make last summer look like nothing. And I mean, does it mean that it's the end is now happened? No, but it certainly can create an SHTF for many people. Last summer, throughout all the riots, some of the people in those areas were certainly living through an SHTF. And so this is why we prepare, and why I encourage people to live in areas where you can be more prepared. You can live this lifestyle with much, greater ease, because living in these cesspools of cities that we now have in this country, which pretty much all of them are, it's just not a good place to raise a family anymore. So, on that note, if you can get out of the cities, if you are in an area that you think could definitely be, have some serious rioting, that could definitely be a situation for a bug out. I'm not advising it. That's something that's kind of up to you and assessing the situation. But being someone that's not big on bugging out, that would definitely fall under the stipulations for me considering to bug out, is if I lived in an area where these mass riots could happen. Another thing in the news that, even though it's not connected at all, I just wanted to bring it up. This thing with Russia and Ukraine, I think it's warming up quite a bit. I was watching a report from the BBC, and they were talking about, it's interesting how the reporting that they're giving is very different from American news. The American news really isn't talking about it, and what they are talking about it, they're making it sound like things are kind of normal. There's just this troop buildup on either side, and it's all just some saber rattling. But there's actual conflict going over there. The ceasefire agreement between the two nations is pretty much done. Like, no one is acknowledging it. Almost on a daily basis, Russia and Ukraine are exchanging shots and missiles and grenades and rockets and back and forth. The battle lines they showed on the BBC report that, you know, this is like old World War I trench warfare. They've actually dug in trenches, and they're about 100 meters apart, and they're firing shots back and forth at each other, lobbing grenades and rockets. Russia sends over these drones, these armed drones with small explosive devices, dropping on the Ukrainian troops. There's been about 30 Ukrainian troops killed in combat with Russia just since the first of the year. So it's definitely very warm over there. Let's say that. This isn't just you know, two opposing sides out on maneuvers that just happen to be you know, on either side of their border. No, this is the makings of a real war. Russia, it's estimated, has about 120 to 150,000 troops already along the border, and Ukraine has about 100,000 troops, and that's not including all the equipment and the artillery that's already been brought in. So this is very interesting. Along with this, I find it interesting that this happened at the same time. U.S. Strategic Command tweeted this. And basically, it's their little way of saying that, you know, things are kind of heating up around the world. And if there's some type of global conflict that could involve countries with nuclear capability, that we should, you know, be prepared for that. Because, well, we've got Russia and China, who are both nuclear capable nations that are kind of doing a lot of saber rattling around. So there's a lot of things that we can take from this. There's obviously what I mentioned in the beginning, the violence with the rioting and stuff, and how that's going to affect us in the immediate with dealing with potential violence and destruction, but also, depending on where you're at, it could disrupt supply chains. We saw last year a lot of trucking companies and stuff decided not to even deliver into certain towns and certain areas of cities because it was a great risk for them because of the rioters. So if you live in those areas, you could see some supply chain disruption because of this. And with all this stuff going on with Russia, man, if we end up in a war with Russia, and if Russia and Ukraine go on a full-scale war, I have a strong belief that we will be involved in that. And it could just spin off into a more major world war. If that happens, that could disrupt a lot of things here in the United States. We've not been involved in a war of that kind of nature with a major nation in many decades. And while I'm not saying that the battles will be seen here on the home front, I think we will feel it a lot more than we did back in Afghanistan and Iraq. Also because everything is really being disrupted already because of the health crisis and all the shutdowns and all just the stuff that's going on. So adding to that, it could be very disruptive. And on top of all that, like U.S. Strategic Command said, we're also dealing with the nuclear-capable countries. And it is quite possible that one of these devices, whether small or large, could be used. And I think we all know in the back of our minds how significant it would be if any nation uses a nuke on another nation. Even if it's not anywhere near us, even if there's no chance whatsoever of you and I feeling the immediate direct results of that, you know, device. You know, if Russia dropped one on Ukraine, it's going to send shockwaves around the world. Maybe not literally, but it will send shockwaves, and it will change things, and it could certainly be used to usher in even more changes that you and I already are aware of happening. So these are things to keep on our radar, to be aware of. Continue stocking up. Continue getting your homesteads more prepared, learning more, you know, building the infrastructure on your homestead, establishing security perimeters, you know, fencing for animals, getting the animals in that you need to be more self-sufficient, to create a meat source or an egg source or, you know, clothing, fiber source, whatever you have the animals for. It's a pretty easy way. Well, let's just say it's maybe not easy. It's definitely a way that you can create at least a somewhat sustainable food source on your property if you have enough. You know, for instance, I've shown our sheep here, and we're in the birthing season here. We had a mama had 2 lambs a couple of nights ago, and so it's a kind of an ongoing process. At least a couple of these that we have right now, the lambs, will be butchered for our purposes. Maybe all of them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're certainly going to have enough for us and maybe a little extra to sell or barter with. But that's the whole point of this lifestyle. It's not just being your Hollywood typical doomsday prepper. We're being self-sufficient, and we're finding ways to do things outside of the system, because when you're outside the system, you're not going to feel the attack and the damage from when the system itself starts to collapse. So wherever you're at in your journey, keep it up. Keep pushing forward. Keep developing your skills, developing your mindset, working on community building, communications. The skills of producing food and preserving food, basic fixing it, maintenance skills that you need around the homestead, because, hey, that's what we do, and that's how we get our houses in order, which above all is what you need to be doing, getting your house in order, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Get your house in order, folks, because it's all around us. It's happening fast. The world is changing. This is the new America, and we need to just come to the realization of that and continue preparing more. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.